Hi, I'm Steven, that's Tiffany, and Erock. We are from Just Got Played, and we are gaming through themes. So what does that mean? Well, we like to talk about tabletop games, board games, card games, and all of those games typically have some kind of theme, which is the subject matter of the game. What is the game about? What are the actions representing? And when we're talking about games, for this series that we're doing, we're talking about games that evoke the theme to us, meaning that when we play that game, we really feel like the theme matters. It makes us think or feel something about the theme. So there are definitely games that have the theme present, but they don't give us a strong feeling of the theme. And so we typically don't pick those. But we have our top two picks, and there's the people's choice. And today we are talking about farming. Agriculture, I should say, which farming is a subset of. I have to say that, one of my favorite games of all time is a farming game, Bonanza, where you're a bean farmer. And so that is a game that I think is an excellent game and I love. And it is an agriculture theme, but it's just a card game and you're trading. And so that's where I'm just wanted to sort of explain how, sure, that's a great agriculture game, but it doesn't make me think agriculture, farming. It doesn't make me feel that. Now, having said that, I've actually done farming. I've raised corn and taken care of orange groves and planted orange groves and herded cattle and disked fields. And so, I've done all the agriculture things. So none of these games really feel like any of that. I mean, if you've done some farming, it's a lot different than what you do in a board game. So, I do understand that when I say this really evokes the theme for me, I know I'm not saying it makes me feel like I'm working in the fields with my hands. Okay. Right. But it does evoke something about that theme to me. And it is central to the game in some way. So, all right, here we go with agriculture. And I want to start with Tiffany's first pick.
Right. So I'm going to go with my second pick first because I super love my first pick and I'm excited. I'm going to make myself eat my vegetables before I have the ice cream. And this is a great game, but it's just, I don't love this game as much as I love that game. So the game that I picked to be my second first runner up, I guess, for agriculture game was Caverna. So in Caverna, you build your little homestead, you get rooms for your house, you have a field that you plant fruits and vegetables and stuff in, or you can create fields that you put sheep and animals in, pigs, goats. Right? I think goats are.
You're just naming farm animals at this point.
You have pigs because pigs can live in your house, but donkeys go.
Donkeys can live in the mine. Exactly.
Can live in the mines, or they can live out in the field. So
and don't forget dogs. You can have tons of dogs.
Yeah, for every dog that you have, you can have more pigs or chickens, sheep. Yeah, more sheep. So yeah, there are a lot of rules to it. It gets a little crazy, but it's just a fun game. And then the rooms that you buy for your house have different abilities sometimes and can affect the way that you grow or farm or your livestock or whatever. So it's a lot of fun, and it's really not a super hard or complicated game. I'd say it's super accessible for people that are new to the hobby. So, anybody can play it. It's super, super accessible. But yeah, so Caverna was my runner up for agriculture game.
But it has all that in there too. Like you said, you do plant a lot of things that then harvest. You can slaughter your animals, as it were, for food. You definitely have that. You have to feed your people part of this game, which is, kind of an Uwe staple for many things. So yeah, it definitely rings true for that.
Now you want me to do a video where we just talk about games that somewhere have a dog in them.
I like it.
If we did cats, we'd be here all day. But dogs.
Yes, we'd be here all day.
All right, Erock, why don't you tell us your number two? Since Tiffany decided to start at number two, why don't you go on?
Sure, I will then. Absolutely. So my second choice for this list is going to be Puerto Rico. I very much love Puerto Rico. To be completely honest, it's been quite a long time since I played. So, but this game still holds an incredibly high place in both my esteem and my heart. I absolutely love it. It's one of the things that really drew me into the hobby deep. Like I played Catan and things like that, and that was fun. But Puerto Rico really pulled me in because there's so much strategy in that game that it really, like, you can devote yourself to understanding the nuances of that game, kind of a thing. And back in the day when this came out, it wasn't like today. So there weren't that many things, so, if you got Puerto Rico, you played Puerto Rico a lot. And I'm sure there are people out there that are still like that. My gaming life has completely changed at this point, as you can see by the ridiculous amounts of, stuff around us at all times. But, it just, I don't know, part of it may be, Steve's in space, part of it may be that, remembering back to the days when we played a ton of Puerto Rico. But I do really love the strategy in that game. I know there was a lot of PC-ness going around for a while, and it kind of fell out of favor because you're kind of pretty much using slaves in there. So, and I know they're trying to rework that so that it's a different idea behind what's going on there. So there should be a new version coming out very soon. When it does come out, I highly recommend that you get it because it's still a fantastic game. It's one of the first times that it really introduced the action selection mechanism where everybody gets to do the thing, but you chose it, so you get a bonus to do that. I can go into depth and detail about things that I love, but again, like cats, we would be here all night. Yeah, I absolutely love Puerto Rico.
I'm going to jump in here too, because this is also my number 2 pick.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. And so to address a couple things you brought up, the new version of Puerto Rico is called Puerto Rico 1897. And I think it might already be out, actually.
Oh, okay.
I have the 10th anniversary edition of Puerto Rico, so I wasn't really tracking when it was coming out because I don't want to get rid of that really nice version. But I do understand. I mean, in the game, it calls them colonists, but they're little brown cubes. And so, a lot of people are offended, and I could understand them not wanting to play the game because of that, mechanism, which they feel represents slavery. I mean, who wants to play a game where you're making use of slavery, right? But now there's a version that doesn't do that, right? There was a narrow period where Puerto Rico was actually independent from Spain and the United States, and so it's themed around that time period. But it's essentially the same game. There have just been those thematic changes. So Puerto Rico, recently, actually, we had a new Board Game Geek #1 game. Brass Birmingham is #1 on the Geek at the moment, actually, as I talk. And I think there have only ever been 8 games that weren't part of some troll campaign have been the #1 game. And Puerto Rico was one of those for a long time.
For a long time back in the day.
Highly rated game. It was going back and forth with, I think, Twilight Struggle there for a while. And so, it's a really good game. It's tough in that it develops sort of a meta. It's sort of like how chess has an opening. I think there were some openings in Puerto Rico. And if you didn't know those and other people did, you would get trounced. Except, chess is a 2-player game. Puerto Rico, you sit to the left of a newbie, and that gives you an unfair advantage, right? If you have a bunch of experienced players, if you're the one sitting to the left of the newbie, you're going to benefit from the bad choice of the newbie who doesn't really understand the game. And so, so there's all kinds of problems that are basically just because people have played the heck out of the game because it was so popular. So it's not really a problem with the game. It's just a representative of how popular it was. But to get back to farming and agriculture, it's totally what this game is about. And several actions in here. You're getting those fields to plant, and then when are you going to harvest? Because you better make sure there's space on those ships. When are you going to put your goods on the ships? What goods do you have versus other people to put them on the ships? Can I get my good into the trading market, whatever it's called, to sell it? Or is it full or whatever, right? There's so many of those things revolve around the crops that you've put on your plantation, your own piece of Puerto Rico where you're growing that stuff. So again, doesn't feel like I'm working out in the fields, but central to what is going on there is this plantation that you've planted and the crops that you've put there. Even the buildings that you're putting down, more than half the time, it's just about the crops that you have in the field for, that are related to those buildings. So yeah, very, very strong pick. And that is why it is also my #2, Puerto Rico. All right, so I guess we can move on to #1s then.
Sure. What was our favorites?
Yeah, so Erock, what do you got?
Okay, this was really tight between these two games. Maybe if I played Puerto Rico more often and I'm going to go off on a Puerto Rico diatribe here by accident here at this point, but I think the chess analogy you made was actually apt because it is very much like that. I think that's one of the reasons I don't get into the table anymore, because the people that I played with over and over and over and over again aren't really available anymore. So now it's like I'm bringing this game that I've mastered to the table with a bunch of people that haven't played it yet. And it's not the same. It's not the same for me, and it's not going to be the same for them.
And there's very little randomness.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Everything is player chosen. So yeah, exactly. So, but which kind of made me decide that this one was my number one, because I feel like I can play it, maybe because I haven't mastered it, or maybe because it's just, I guess it's more of the environment. We play so many games now that, because I've actually seen this stuff too about like a certain strategy for this and a certain strategy for that. Without further ado, my number one pick is actually Great Western Trail. I think that's a really excellent game all around. It's a game about herding cattle, and really that's the game. You go on a little trail, and as the game progresses, you and the other players can put buildings on this trail to kind of help you out to get your cattle to market. And then you get your cattle to market, and depending upon how many different kinds of cattle you have, you get more money for your cattle. And then you can choose to ship it off by train to farther and farther cities for more victory points. But it's basically a fancy rondel, because as soon as you do that, you go back to the beginning, and then you go through the trail again, and you take your herd to Kansas City, and then when you're done, you go back to the trail and you take your herd to Kansas City, just over and over again. But the game gets more dynamic as you go because of the different buildings and stuff that people put down along the way, giving you more options, different things that you can do. And like I was saying, it's probably because I haven't had the time or the chance to master this, because I know there are things like, the builder strategy. I don't know what that is. I just know that it exists. You know what I'm saying? But
I tried that in my first game, building a lot of the buildings rather than focusing on the cows. And boy, that fell flat. Like, you need the cows.
Like, it just wasn't fun anymore, right?
No, like, I also got my butt kicked.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay, right.
But it was also my first game. So
there's intricacies to these different strategies. But you could say the same thing about chess in Puerto Rico. Like, you might know how to do vaguely something, but that's different than executing this, 15-point plan about how to get things done. I just really like the game. There's a touch of deck building in there, enough that if you really want to go that way, you can, which is one of the things that I really like about this game anyway, is that there are so many different directions you can go. You can build buildings to get points. You can work on your hand of cows to get points. You can just work on ways to better their market value without necessarily doing some of the other stuff. And then, of course, then you can mesh all those three together in a different kind of a blend of strategy. I think it's really dynamic. It changes with the different people at the table and the decisions that are made. Every game is different. I enjoy it every time. So Great Western Trail.
Yeah. And to speak a little bit about this thematically, because there was, we have the user poll, and there were some comments about how Great Western Trail doesn't really fit. Well, I'm sorry, but herding cattle to the slaughterhouse, or to the trains to go to the slaughterhouse, is absolutely agriculture. I mean, I've taken cattle to a slaughterhouse. I mean, I herded them into a trailer and drove it in a truck. I didn't get on a horse over a month and drive them to Kansas City or anything. But, like, if you don't think that's agriculture, like, come out into the boondocks with me sometime and see what these people do for a living. Cows are sweet, but they're dumb and not super compliant. And so that is a rough job. And so that is, and when you go to McDonald's, where do you think that comes from, right? That is absolutely agriculture in my book. So I think Great Western Trail is a good pick. And, having played the game one time and done a miserable job at it, I see the theme in there. So I get it. All right, cool. So Tiffany, what is your number one?
So my number one is probably, it's in my top, oh gosh, I don't even know. It's probably in my top 15 games. And it's a super fun, oh gosh, I'm just going to tell you, it's Clans of Caledonia. So in Clans of Caledonia, you have these, you have to pick kind of a route, and you get a starting what is it? What picks your direction in the beginning?
It's like a family, like you're the family McLeod or the family whatever.
You're the clan.
The clan.
One of the clans of Caledonia.
You can see how Scottish we are, and it's right in the title.
In the title. Yes, you get your clan assigned, and you get like a special bonus, and that gives you a direction. So you might make extra money on milk that you sell, or you might get a special bonus when you make cheese, or you might do really well on water routes or whatever. There's all these different clan bonuses. So you get that as a little bit of a direction. And then you can, you have to traverse the map and grow resources on the map. And you have to grow, if you're a dairy farmer person, then you have to grow cows so that you can milk the cows, so that you get the milk, so that you can then sell the milk,
or make cheese.
Yeah, you might have a cheese manufacturing plant that you put next door, and then you now are producing cheese, and you can sell the cheese in contracts or whatever. So it's just, I love that game so much. It's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy just the way, like, you can do a little bit of everything. So if you want to grow cows and make cheese and grow wheat and make beer and make bread, if you want to diversify everything, you can do everything. I don't know that you're going to do it well, but hey, whatever. Maybe you've got a clan that really lends itself to that. So, I don't know. It's just a lot of fun, and I rarely win, but I always enjoy it. So it doesn't matter if I'm losing. I still really enjoy just trying my best to produce what I can and make the contracts. And really, it's just bumping out contracts as quickly as you can. So,
I think just like Puerto Rico, like Steve was saying, everything about this game is about the agriculture. Yes, there's a map, and one of the things is trying to get like the most coverage over the map for in-game scoring and things like that. And your shipping route and all this, as far as connecting to different parts of the map, that is a huge part of this game. But at the end of the day, it's all about where I'm placing my farms that do the different things, what I'm producing, what contracts I'm completing, that it's all about this. How it requires this much cheese, a lamb, and some twine or something. Like, it's all about the actual agriculture when you really get down to it.
Yep, so it's a lot of fun.
And to elaborate a little bit further on the name, because we talked about the clans, but Caledonia it was this Romans, it was the name the Romans gave to a part of the United Kingdom, which encompasses most of Scotland. So, yeah, so you're talking about Scottish clans, and I think chieftains is what they called the head of a clan. I'm not sure, but yeah, anyway, cool. Clans of Caledonia. I haven't played it, but I absolutely would.
Oh, really? I think you would very much enjoy this.
Yeah, I think I would too. Yeah.
I'm not going to go too far off on a tangent, and I keep saying this and nobody ever agrees with me. I feel like this is Euro Terra Mystica, really, because it takes a lot of that, like moving the stones and stuff around. That's not in there. You're not terraforming everything, but like the round structure is very similar. The way that you actually execute a lot of the actions is very similar to Terra Mystica. So it's almost just like the same kind of foundation. And somebody just went a different way in the execution of it. But so, again, I said I wouldn't go off on a long tirade, so I'm done.
Isn't the game a lot shorter too?
I feel like it depends on who you play with.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably true.
Yeah, that's
and I'm more inclined to play Clans of Caledonia with 2 people or 3. Whereas like Terra Mystica, I always feel like I'm not getting the game. If I play that with 2 or 3 people, I'm like, this isn't like, we're all spread out. We're not even building next to each other. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of that in this as well, where you get like adjacency bonuses and you can buy things from your neighbor at certain points in time at a discount and stuff like that. But at the same time, like I don't even know where I'm going with that. So I don't know.
All right. Well, let's just move on to my number 1 pick then. Right?
Yay, Steve.
And so my number 1 pick is about making wine, which oddly enough there's several games that could still be, but specifically, I'm talking about the game that to me is the meanest worker placement game that I actually play or have played multiple times, and that is Viticulture. So in Viticulture, you are planting fields, you're planting vines in your fields, and then you're harvesting grapes from those vines, and then you're making wines, and you can age the grapes, you can age the wines. You're trying to fulfill these orders. You have visitors. You can have structures and stuff. I personally like to play with the Tuscany board. So the Tuscany board has 4 seasons instead of 2. I think those seasons are sort of interesting because when you finish a season and move ahead, now you've lost those actions and you can't do the forward ahead actions unless you have the special worker meeples, which are a lot of fun to include. And so you've got to decide, like, am I going to use all my meeples, all my workers now? I'm going to save some for a later thing. Well, what if I don't get those actions later? Because again, I said, this is mean. And I think this game is, I think, unintentionally mean. It's just everybody wants to do the same things. Everybody wants to harvest. Everybody wants to make wine. And there's only so many spots. Your grande worker helps because you have a worker that you can put on a space where another worker is. It still allows you to do the thing. You don't get the bonus from the space, but you get to do the action. But still, you only get one of those each turn. And then, if you're the first person to go out, you decide where you're going to be on the wake-up track, which tells you what bonus you're going to have, including maybe having another worker in the next round, but going later. And then there's this weird area control Tuscany board, which I think, if you were to ask me as a person who's played a lot of games, hey, what do you think of adding this little area control thing, whatever, to this game? I'd be like, that's stupid, right? Don't do that. It's overcomplicated and dumb. But then, I enjoy it in this game. So, what do I know, apparently? So again, I recommend Tuscany mostly because it has the 4 seasons, but also I like the structures, which might only be part of Tuscany. I'm not sure. I like the structures. I like the little area control part. And I also have the special workers, which I think maybe was just part of the collector's edition, but you get separately. I don't think that's in the Tuscany Essential Edition.
No, I think that's in Tuscany now.
Okay, there's so many versions of this game. Finally, they have they've winnowed it down to the Viticulture Essential Edition. And I'm not entirely sure what's in it because there's also the Tuscany Essential Edition. I'm pretty sure I know what's in those two combined, but then there's also Viticulture World, which we did a live play of on the channel, which is actually a cooperative version of this game. And that was fascinating because how do you make a worker placement game cooperative and have it work? Because like I just said, I play this game partially because it's so cutthroat. Unintentionally, even if it is unintentionally, right? You're agonizing over this space or whatever. But in the cooperative game, you can just be like, well, I need to do that later, so don't do that. You just tell people what you're going to do. But still, I guess there's all that tension because it's like, well, I need to be able to do that. Otherwise, I can't do this thing. And so even though you're working together, you still have that tension because you all need to do all these things and you just, you can't do it all. So anyway, yeah, that whole whatever ecosystem, all these viticulture flavors and games, etc., that are out there, I think it's really good. And I really do feel it's all about them grapes, all about that wine. So that is why I picked it for my number 1 for agriculture.
I'm glad somebody picked this because it was really hard for me to leave this off the list because this is a really good game.
It's such a great game.
And it evokes the theme, because you're totally growing grapes and making wine, man. I mean, that's agriculture. So
yeah, to be honest, I expected 2 games to be the people's choices, and I thought this would be one of them, if not the first one. But it is not. Viticulture is not on the people's choice. One of the games that I expected to be a people's choice is, and that one. Now we're moving into the people's choice, and it's not the number 1 though. It's the number 2 people's choice is. Agricola.
Backwards like us.
Yeah, right. And so that is Agricola. I expected Agricola to be there, but I still have never played it, and I probably never will play it. I'll probably play Caverna if I get a chance, but I've been warned off Agricola by some people for various reasons. But I will let Erock. I'll throw it over to Erock. How's that sound for you to talk about it?
Absolutely. I played a lot of Agricola. The description will sound a lot like Caverna because there's a lot of similarities between these 2 games. Same kind of thing. You can plow fields and then plant things in the field and then harvest the things that come out of the field. Or you set up stables and you can have, cows or pigs or whatever. And these will multiply as time goes by, assuming you have 2, of course, and you can slaughter these to make your dinner and things like that. And you buy additions to your house and you can upgrade your house from like mud to stone kind of a thing. Well, I think it's like straw to clay to stone as your upgrades there. And, you can go and get yourself more workers by basically having a baby. In fact, I think it is wish for a baby and urgent wish for a baby later or whatever. So So we all know what that urgent wish means. So a lot of this is going to sound like that. It's incredibly scalable, much again like Caverna, because depending upon the player count, you use different numbers of boards and different boards. So there's a specific set of boards that you use for 3 players, which is different than the boards that you use for 4 players, which has all the actions and whatever on them. So, it scales very well. I think it plays excellent. I would like to say at this point, I just want to point out everything I say from here on out is my opinion. So, because I know how people feel about Agricola, and people that love Agricola are going to blow me up when I say some things that I'm about to say. So my personal opinion is I would rather own Caverna. I think Agricola is a better game, but I would rather have Caverna. All right. Because Caverna is always the same game. Okay. It's not, neither one of these games is simple. Neither one of them. But, Caverna has 30 buildings that are right there in front of you when the game starts, and you can buy any one of them. If as soon as you get the resource, you can buy any one of these 30 buildings, and they all do completely different things. But that's not nearly as bad to me as far as casual playing as in Agricola. You use decks of cards, and I just might get good cards this game, or I might not. But, what's really frustrating is you kind of have to play 10 or 12 times before you even know if your cards are any good or not. Otherwise, you're just looking at all these cards wondering, I barely understand how to make pumpkins, let alone work these cards into this to make some kind of cohesive strategy out of it. So in the end, I'm happy that we own Caverna. It's something that we can pull out when we want to play a farming game and have some fun. It's got some cool little things in there. You can level up your dwarves when you send them on adventures and things like that. But I also feel like Agricola is the better game. You just have to be able to devote enough time to it to get that deep into it that you can really maximize the card play, because it's really about the card play to elevate what you're doing in that game. So I gave you a diatribe about the difference between Agricola and Caverna. And like I said, at a certain point, these are all my opinions. So don't tell me I'm wrong. They're my opinions.
Well, I'm going to drop.
You're still wrong.
Yeah, of course. But I'm going to drop some knowledge on you that is not my opinion, but it is an opinion of 3 other people that independently have told me this, as I mentioned, being sort of warned off of Agricola. And it is, you'll start playing the game. You're new to the game. Maybe you know what you're doing, but probably you don't. 30 minutes into the game, you could go, oh, now I understand this game. And I've lost. There's no way of me catching up. There's no way I'm going to win. So 2.5 hours more of me watching somebody else win the game. And, I don't want to sign up for that. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Maybe if we were all new at Agricola, but still, even then, right? You sit down with 4 players, all of you are new to Agricola. You start playing 30 minutes in, probably one person, maybe even lucked into a winning strategy.
Yeah,
and so you're staring at it and going, well, okay, we're going to play for 2.5 more hours so that Joe can get his win, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Good play is so dependent on the cards. And new people, like I said, you don't even know what good combos are. And then maybe one of the 4 people that you're playing with, just like you said, kind of lucks into, I'm going to play this card, then this card. And wow, that worked well. But you don't even know. Like if you're looking at your cards, there might be a really good combo in there, but you're not experienced enough at the game to see it and make it happen, kind of a thing. So if you want to play something repeatedly, I'd say play Agricola, because there's like different layers as you get. It's like an onion. It's like a glass onion. You know what I'm saying? So that's my opinion.
Yeah, well, as people who review games on YouTube, I'm going to say playing a 3-hour game repeatedly is probably not in my foreseeable future, unless it's a campaign game with my kids. So there's that. Anyway, all right. So we have one more People's Choice. And this is obviously an agriculture game, so no argument there. I was a little surprised it got votes, and totally surprised it was the number 1 and beat out Agricola and, like I said, Viticulture, which I was expecting. But I will, I guess, throw it over to Tiffany, because I've never played the game, to tell us a little bit about Scoville.
I'm going to tell you a tiny bit because it's been a long time since I've played it. I will tell you that Scoville is a game where you are trying to create peppers. Yep. Here, I'll just make it easy. It's right here. You can
it's right there. Yeah.
You are trying to plant these exotic peppers so that you, or maybe not, maybe you're going a different route and you're trying to get the boring ones. And you're just trying to grow these peppers so that you can create these hot sauces for the county fair or whatever it is. But they've got these cards and it has the peppers on it, and you're trying to fill those orders to get points, money, I don't know, something. You're getting something from it. It's not for free. You're not volunteering. But the game is in a couple of things. It's in how you get your peppers, because I believe, if memory recalls, you have to get like the seeds, or you have to get access to growing these peppers, whether it's through auctioning or something. I think that's it. I think they auction off the different peppers, and then you have to plant the peppers in your field. And the way that you plant the peppers determines what peppers you get, like which you might, I don't even remember how it goes, but you might plant peppers A, B, C, and D. And then when you put them in that combination or something, that corner makes a ghost pepper or whatever, I think. And then you have the little guy that's in the field, and you're trying to go around and harvest the peppers from the field. You're trying to move around, and it's a great game. It's a lot of fun. We own it. And I can see why it was the people's choice. I mean, number one is a hefty, that's good for you, Scoville. You were in the big boy leagues.
Who'd have thunk?
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it's a great game, and we need to get it to the table more often. Maybe we need to have a day where we do like food themed games.
Well,
and
let me spoil it for you. If you want to play this game, I think it was Martin and Terry voting for it to put it over the top to make it number one.
Okay,
so you've got a built-in audience.
Yes, they'll play with us.
Awesome.
But that's Scoville. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, there you go. There's a bunch of agriculture themed games, if that's your thing. It's actually a pretty popular theme in board games, sort of.
Yeah, but we were talking about it before when we were kind of driving around earlier, and this is one of those things, like, we both felt like, oh, I've played so many farming kinds of games. Then we looked at the list, was like, well, there's not nearly as many as I thought. I think I've just played the same ones a lot, so that it feels like a ton of different games.
I'll tell you, I think it's two things. I think that's part of it, right? You feel like, oh, there's a ton out there. And there might be a lot out there that you haven't played. But also there are games, like I said, like Bonanza is one of my favorite games, and that's a farming game. But, I'm not going to pick it because it just doesn't. Sure, it technically fits, but it just doesn't bring out the theme to me. And so digging down and saying, like, which of these games really brings that theme out to me? Well, and this is a tough one, right? Like, how do you really bring out agriculture as a theme? I mean, you don't, but you can put it front and center in your game design. And I think that's what we've picked here. We picked games where agriculture is front and center. So
I agree. And just, doubling down on what you're saying, I think I like Feast for Odin better than either of the games that I mentioned as my favorites. I just don't feel, it doesn't feel like I'm farming. It's like a Tetris puzzle. And when I surround a piece of wheat, now I get a piece of wheat every round. Like, I didn't plant wheat. I surrounded it, so I get it. That doesn't feel like farming.
And there's so much in that game that is not agriculture.
Right. It's a whole bunch of like raiding and pillaging, and it's just really a Tetris game. You need to put these things that you gather into certain patterns to fill up your board, kind of a thing. It just does not feel like farming at all. I don't think people would probably argue with me, but it doesn't feel Viking to me either. I mean, it is. That's the whole point. But it's so much about just getting these pieces that go on this board. Like, it kind of takes some of that other flavor away from me. So, this isn't meant to be a Feast for Odin review for everybody, because like I said, the first thing, I liked it better than the other two games. I just don't feel like it's farming. So.
You don't think it's a Viking game? You're not going to make a Feast for Odin? You want Odin to come smite you? You want to get smote?
Smoted.
I feel kind of threatened right now. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm Steven.
Well, I don't want to leave Babe out. Hold on, Babe. You disqualified one because it didn't feel like farming either. What was it?
Oh, okay.
It was Zolkin. I love Zolkin so much that I even made little corns and little logs and like painted them by hand, everything. But it doesn't, sure, there's a whole wheel devoted to going out and harvesting the fields and getting the corn so that you can feed your people, and feeding your people is super important in that game. So, there by proxy, getting the corn is super important in that game. But it's not the biggest thing. And it doesn't feel like I'm a farmer growing crops to harvest and fill a purpose. That's just one of those check marks on your list of, okay, I have to feed my people in 2 rounds. And if I don't pull off now, I'm going to miss the chance to get the most corn. So let me pull that off. You're not harvesting really much of anything. I don't feel like, so that's what I disqualified from my running with Zolkin.
All right. Well, so there you go. A feast for Odin, Zolkin, Bonanza. We all disqualified one game. Do you disagree with us? Well, lucky you. We have a Discord channel where you can come and tell us that you disagree with us. Come on in there, chat with us. We'll talk to you. And then you know what? You, I'm talking to you. You can do us a favor. You can say, hey, everybody, these Just Got Played folks are great. Why don't you watch their videos? Share our videos with your friends. Like, subscribe, all those things. Help us out. We would appreciate it. But until the next time, I'm Steven. That's Tiffany. Erock is here. We are Just Got Played. And thank you for listening to us blab about agriculture.
Absolutely. Bye. See you next time.